Greetings to all of you. My name is Laurelina Cristancho Pineda, and I'm a master's student in English language teaching for self-directed learning at Universidad de La Sabana in Chía, Colombia. It is my pleasure to share this presentation with you. Further than a good student, an autonomous learner. So, who is a good student? My concept of what it is to be a good student has critically changed as years pass by. In elementary school, I knew I was a good student because my teacher was always telling my parents I was. I was respectful, I was quiet, responsible, organized, and I was always getting good grades. In high school, I was a good student because besides of the features already mentioned, I was curious about different topics and I was looking for answers that were different from those which others had already provided because I needed to analyze and question everything in order to understand. Now, for that moment, I had understood that the reason why I had been studying my whole life was because I needed to develop skills to behave properly as a citizen and be productive. I had always known that people study as a need of social development, but this is when I started to be aware of the whole phenomenon of learning. So, a person cannot just belong to an educational system. If you see the image here, there's a person facing a real life situation and only seems to know how to do well in tests. Well, then a person needs to understand from the beginning why learning, why studying. So they are not just passive students, but active autonomous learners. All of this takes me to speak about autonomy. So here are some concepts. Self-governing, coming from a Greek word meaning independent. So self-governed and independent. It says that a system is autonomous when it uses its own information to enhance survival. And when we speak about a person, consider that we are not speaking that the person does everything alone, but it also means that the person, being autonomous, has the capacity to recognize when to ask for help and where to find that help. And now let's relate autonomy with learning. So, what is learner autonomy? It is the capacity to take charge of one's own learning. And learners are responsible for decisions that are related with their learning and making the decisions and implementing those decisions. Besides this, individuals participate metacognitively, motivationally, and behaviorally in their own learning process. So they don't just study because of studying, but all of these characteristics are involved. What is learner autonomy? Let's continue. So, another author says that it is an individual and gradual process of self awareness and it involves sharing control between teachers and learners because it's not just the teacher in control, but it's shared control. And in the context, it offers the learners opportunities to take responsibility of their own learning and that responsibility makes them ask them to make the most of the available resources. Well, some factors for learners to attain autonomy as follows. Well, it depends on the ability to take responsibility and personal constructs that is all of the things that the person thinks, all of the things that are inside of their heads. As we said, is not autonomy does not mean doing everything alone. So here we need teacher support and peer support. And it also depends on the availability and flexibility in learning environment. Well, what does it take to be an autonomous learner? Here we have some three psychological characteristics of autonomous people that are perceived competence, perceived control, and motivation that can apply for learning. So let's start with the first one, that would be motivation. Here we have intrinsically motivated. Motivation is the desire to act, being internally or externally stimulated. But when it comes to an autonomous learner, then we see that intrinsic motivation is very important because it is related to individual sense of self and purpose to act, for their desire to act. So here the person does not study just because of an instrumental reason, for example, getting good grades, but the learner studies because of an interest in studying per se. That's why I put here this image of wisdom. Let's continue with another one that is perceived control. Here we see that it is a perception of being in control of decision making, and then the person takes responsibility for the outcomes of their actions. And this is recognized for other authors as internal locus of control. Here, people feel that their success or their failure is under their own control, and autonomous learners are internally controlled students. So here we see that the learners perceive their success or their failures due to their efforts, and then consider they know that they can influence future tasks by maintaining or increasing their efforts. So it's up to them and they have the control. Another characteristic is perceived competence. Here people have confidence in themselves. And it is like a thermostat that regulates learners' strategic behavior in learning. So they regulate their performance because they perceived as, and they consider that they are competent. Another element besides those three that we were mentioning, then we have here self-assessment. That is also considered as self-monitoring device. And look at this picture. Here we have an alien. The red one says that's when you say and you accept, okay, I need help. That is also a part of being autonomous. The one that is in the middle is analyzing, like, I'm getting there. I'm on my way. And the green one's when you say, okay, I can do this. Let's do another activity. Let's learn another thing, or let's go to the next step. But here, self-assessment is considered as a natural element of autonomous learning, and it gives a sense of consciousness of the learning. It provides the learners with immediate feedback on their performance and on their learning strategies, and it also increases motivation. Well, what does autonomy entail? It entails both capacity to apply the knowledge and the skills that are learned in the classroom to appropriate context in the world. So it's not just something that I learn in the classroom and I perform in the classroom, but I take it to different contexts outside in the real world. And besides, the capacity to update that knowledge and those skills as a response of the changing circumstances and demands of that real world. That is what autonomy entails. And the explicit pursuit of autonomy in formal education context then is both learning and learning how to learn. So we learn how to learn, and then we can learn, we're able to learn everything or all of the things that we want to, then becoming autonomous. Well, now, what are some characteristics of autonomous learners? Let's see, we have different authors, but here are some characteristics. Autonomous learners are motivated to learn. So we were speaking about it. Yeah, it's not like someone asked me, hey, learn or study. No, I'm motivated to learn. And I can choose the material and the methods and the tests according to my personality or according to my way of learning, because we all are different and we learn in different ways. So I need to recognize which is the best material, which is the best method, which is the best way for me to learn. And also autonomous learners take an active approach to the task. More characteristics. An autonomous learner knows their needs and work for their objectives. So I know what I need in my learning process and I work on it. And also, I learn both inside and outside the classroom. I am conscious that I'm learning and I'm not just only learning inside of the classroom, because in my daily life, I can continue with my process and that will be better. I know and I'm conscious about it. And I know how to use resources independently. So I have my resources. Maybe I learned how to use them in the classroom, but I don't need someone next to me to be able to use the resource. I learn how to use it and I manage my time in my learning properly. Now, advantages of autonomy when learning. So here, for example, autonomous learners are highly valued by employers and also for their achievement in higher education. One important thing is that an autonomous learner learns how to learn and is and it focuses on the process, not simply on the goal. The process is important and manage time, and because of being able to criticize myself, I'm aware of my strengths and my weaknesses to be able to work on them and improve them. And it also fosters social inclusion because I have better skills, and of course it also improves academic performance. Now that we know all of this, here are some tips for successful autonomous learning. Well, one is check your understanding. So, after reading or listening or watching or studying or whatever it is the way that you study, ask yourself questions about it. Ask yourself questions, wonder, and of course, try to answer and try to find more questions. Another is paraphrase. So recite what you have learned, but using your own words, your own expressions, your own voice, because this will make you think instead of just repeating. Also, this makes you can practice like pretending you are explaining to someone else. So it will make you use your own voice, think instead of just repeating. Another is embrace mistakes. So mistakes are not failures, they are great because they are opportunities to learn and to understand where you need to improve, to study more, to work harder. Finally, maintain focus on the end results because we don't study just to pass exams. We studied because of our desire to increase our knowledge and our skills. So, keep calm, study smart, enjoy learning, and thank you so much.